For as long as humans have existed, we've told stories. From the gods, devils, and demi-beings of ancient times, to the superheroes, high school students, and sparkly vampires of today. As you might expect, having so many stories being told throughout the years means that it's gotten to the point where it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, for people to know every single story or about the characters within them. And that, my friends, is where I come in. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am your ever-friendly Pokeprof, and welcome to the premiere episode of Background Check, a show dedicated to the history, lore, and overall story of your favorite fictional characters. This has been a show a long time in coming, and I hope you'll all enjoy it, as well as give me your general thoughts, opinions, and suggestions to make the show better. Because this is the first episode, I wanted to start everything off with one of my favorite characters of all time, and one who, as of late, hasn't really gotten much respect from the games she's been in. Even though she's technically a bounty hunter for hire, she's been a well-known protector of the universe, and has been able to succeed where armies have failed. But she didn't start out like this. In fact, like any of us, she was a normal human being until one fateful day. Today's background check is on Samus Aran of the Metroid series. To talk about Samus, or to be entirely honest, any of the original heroes and villains of the NES era of video games, it must be understood that these characters didn't really have stories. At least not in the traditional sense. A lot of video games from that era were just, your princess or love interest has been captured, go save them, as we see with Zelda and Mario, and the only real plot elements that you would ever really get for a world were often from the instruction booklet that came with the game. And considering the original instruction booklet for the first Metroid game hid the fact that Samus is a girl, it's probably safe to say that we should ignore that. In matter of fact, let that be a point of focus of this show. Please keep in mind that not everything you'll see here will be considered to be the end-all be-all of that character's history. Most characters have been reimagined, reworked, and retconned so many times over the years that trying to give any one single storyline is near impossible for some, especially if they've got more than one person in charge of their story. While Samus hasn't been so much affected to the same extent as some of the others of Nintendo's lineup, the only real solid origin that we have for the character comes from an older manga, which can be hit or miss depending on how you prefer things. I personally would rather take some background to no background, so that's why we're going to be using it for this particular episode. To start Samus' story, we must go into the far future where the Galactic Federation, essentially Nintendo's old version of the Star Trek Federation, have colonized a planet simply known as K2L. While being a simple mining planet in most respects, it's actually a source of a rare material used to help power spaceships known as a fluorolite, which is more or less unobtainium if you've seen the Avatar movie. The miners of the colony themselves often brought family to live with them on the planet, and that's where we actually meet young Samus Aran for the first time, along with her parents, Rodney and Virginia Aran. It was when Samus was about 3 years old that an alien race known as the Chozo landed, originally desiring some of the rare material themselves. Rodney would eventually deny the Chozo, as the fluorolite was already promised to another faction within the Federation. Despite this, one of the avian aliens known as Old Bird spent some time with Samus, teaching her about the importance of understanding others and trying to be friendly. This was something that the young girl took to heart, even using it to gain a pet. It was after the Chozo had left K2L did another group of aliens arrive, this group a lot more hostile than the peaceful bird people. Ridley and his space pirates note the fleeing birds before their scanners tell them of the fluorolite on the planet below. Doing what they want because a pirate is free, Ridley and his men landed upon the colony and started their attack, planning on taking all of the fuel for themselves. Samus, trying to both follow Old Bird's lessons as well as being like 3 years old at the time, does her best to actually befriend Ridley, trying to say that she isn't scared of him. And while this doesn't go well with the giant dragon actually attacking the girl, the artwork preceding the attack seems to imply that the space pirate regretted having to kill Samus, who was so young at the time. Whether this is something that is actually considered part of his character is unclear, especially considering the fact that Ridley has been killed so many times now in the games. Regardless of this, it was the attack on K2L that Samus lost both of her parents, her mother dying to try and protect the young girl from the dragon's attack, while her father sacrificed himself by torching the pirate ship, dropping the entire thing on Ridley's head. Goes to show how strong that freaking dragon is, considering he survived this, or got cloned, or got resurrected again. It's actually never quite certain which. Being drawn back to the planet thanks to an emergency signal, the Chozo return to K2L only to find that everyone other than Samus has been killed. Feeling responsible for the pirates finding the colony in the first place, Old Bird and his compatriot Grey Voice bring Samus back to their home planet of Zebes. And yes, that is how I pronounce it. No, I do not care to fight on that. Just move along. Regardless, it turns out that the home planet of the bird people doesn't exactly work well with that of a 3-year-old human child, as told to the Chozo by their computer AI Mother Brain. Wanting to ensure that Samus can both live and thrive, the aliens use their advanced technology to do two major things: fusing their own DNA into Samus to give her an overall stronger mind and body, but also giving her the power suit. The armor itself is actually kind of insane when you really look at it. It was designed to be nearly universally modular, allowing it to be capable of using or adapting nearly every other weapon or feature into the suit with little to no impact. The power suit also is partly organic in nature, which is somehow supposed to explain why Samus can just have it be absorbed into her body instantly should she want it. Honestly, if we can have a universe where people wield magic swords based on light and having amazing psychic powers, then I'm okay with a techno-organic spacesuit built by birds that can adapt to almost anything. From this point onward, most of Samus's childhood and teenage years were focused on her training in the power suit. The Chozo really wanted to turn Samus into a protector of the galaxy, seeing as that's what the birds thought of themselves in a respect. Grey Voice himself points this fact out as the reason why they expect the absolute best from Samus, and say that she must always use her abilities to the max. Being an angsty teen at the time, though, Samus decides to just be alone for a while, and runs into space butterflies. No, not that one. These guys are known as Enophyria, and Samus quickly takes a liking to them and the flowers they enjoy. It's only later when she learns the truth, as the flowers are poisonous and the butterflies are the ones who carried them here, all brought to the planet thanks to the space pirates. Grey Voice orders the destruction of both plant and animal, of which of course Samus is against. This being a universe where even simple insects are smart enough to use weapons though, the butterflies fight back. Not wanting anyone to be harmed, Samus armors up, disarms the space butterflies, and tries to calm them down, only for Mother Brain to burn them all into cinders regardless. Not exactly a subtle brain, is she? It was after this incident that the old bird decided it was time for Samus to leave the planet. The old Chozo felt that while they were able to give the young woman power, her heart and discipline was something that would be greater suited for other humans to teach her. He wanted her to become a true protector of the galaxy. Frankly, I prefer the Guardians of the Galaxy, but Protector works too. Cut to a few years later, and we find that Samus is now working for the Federation Police, together with a couple of guys that we'll never see in the games, as a recon group. During this particular mission, the team ends up finding a group of space pirates building something that, as far as they can tell, is completely and totally useless. It makes matters worse that they're forcing the natives of the planet they're on to build it. Right as our heroes are about to go leave to report the situation, as they are just a recon team, one of the pirates comes through with a bunch of children that they're going to force to work. One of the children turns out to be too small for their liking, and the leader calls for them to be killed right then and there. Being the big damn hero she is, Samus intervenes and a firefight between her teammates, and the space pirates commence. Once all of his men are defeated, Samus appears ready to kill the pirate leader, despite his pleas for mercy. It's only because of the little girl crying out in fear that stayed the woman's hand, causing her to formally arrest him. After being debriefed and getting chewed out by their commander, the young girl actually thanks Samus for saving her, only for the bounty hunter to do so in return, believing that she would have become no better than the pirates that had attacked her home if she had killed someone completely at her mercy. It was this event that eventually led Samus to meeting the man whom she would one day respect, and most players of the Metroid series hate on principle, Adam Malkovich. The origin story we get for Samus Aran is, while not the most complex or original of stories, still has enough to set it apart from others. Especially in the era of video games that Samus comes from, sci-fi was something that was rare to see, as most games went with the more classic sword and sorcery style of gameplay like Zelda, or made worlds entirely their own like Mario. To see someone who not only was from the far future, but also had a tragic backstory was something that was very different for Nintendo at the time. We'll come back to Samus again in the future, since this part of the story marks the beginning of one of her video games, and I'm fully of the belief that it deserves its own episode. Next time, however, we're going to be visiting a place much like our own Earth, where a black pyramid lies. Within it, we'll find a source of evil that transcends time and becomes one of the most memorable villains of his era. Until then, folks, please leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe if you want to see more of Background Check and the other silly little videos I do, and even leave suggestions for what characters or stories you would like me to cover next. I'm pretty much open to anything. With all that said, stay frosty.